Alice walked through the campus, her blonde hair waving in the afternoon breeze. She seemed oblivious to everything around her, lost in her own thoughts, while her occasional smile naturally lit up her face. It was impossible not to notice her presence. Jimmy had certainly noticed her long ago. Since the first semester of his final year, his interest in Alice had become a constant in his life. He watched her walk through the hallways, chatting with her classmates from the foreign languages department, and wondered if he would ever be someone worthy of her attention. Unlike Alice's friends, who were students from various countries, Jimmy felt small and insignificant. His math classes didn't provide the social opportunities that Alice seemed to have in abundance. There was something about those quick exchanges between her and her peers that filled him with insecurities. He convinced himself that his life, filled with numbers and equations, wasn't interesting enough for someone as radiant as Alice. It was a rainy afternoon when Jimmy, loaded with a stack of books and his notebook, tripped in the lobby of the main building. His notebook fell to the ground, papers scattering everywhere, and before he could react, Alice was already at his side. Without saying a word, she bent down and started picking up the sheets. Jimmy, nervous and unsure of what to say, barely managed to thank her when she handed him the notebook. "Thanks, Alice," he murmured, almost inaudible. She looked at him, surprised that he knew her name. "You're welcome, Jimmy, right?" That simple gesture, that minimal acknowledgement, was enough to ignite a spark in Jimmy. There was no reason not to try, right? Somehow, that brief exchange filled him with a confidence he didn't know he had. "Hey, would you like to have lunch with me in the cafeteria one day?" he asked before doubt could hold him back. Alice looked at him, surprised. It wasn't the first time someone had invited her to lunch, but there was something about Jimmy's palpable insecurity that held her back for a moment. However, she shook her head. "No, I'm sorry, I have other plans." The rejection felt like a bucket of cold water, but Jimmy didn't let that first no defeat him. Months went by, and although their interactions were limited, Jimmy persisted. He always found a way to cross paths with her, always polite, always kind. Sometimes he left a book he thought she might be interested in her locker or sent her a message asking if she needed help with anything. Alice saw this as an innocent gesture, something that might fade over time. It didn't. After a year of occasional exchanges, Alice accepted his invitation to go out. It wasn't something planned or romantic, it just happened one day after classes when Jimmy asked her again, and she nodded. "Okay, we can have lunch tomorrow." For Jimmy, that was the beginning of everything. With each passing day, his relationship with Alice began to solidify. Although she maintained a certain emotional distance at first, she gradually started to trust him more. Jimmy wasn't the most popular or the most extroverted guy, but there was something about his perseverance that intrigued her. Moreover, after years of being surrounded by superficial relationships, Jimmy offered something different: stability, dedication, a future that seemed solid. It was after a year of dating when Jimmy, trembling and nervous, proposed to her. Despite initial doubts, Alice accepted. It seemed like the next logical step, or at least that's what she thought at that moment. What she didn't anticipate was the storm that was about to unleash in her married life. From the moment Ariana, Jimmy's mother, met Alice, the atmosphere changed. Ariana, a strong-willed and protective woman, had never been discreet about her opinions. From the start, she made it clear that she didn't see Alice as the ideal wife for her son. Every gesture, every word Alice said was analyzed and criticized by Ariana. Jimmy, caught between his mother and his new wife, tried to keep the peace, but it was becoming increasingly evident that the tension between the two women was only growing. "I don't think she seems, Jimmy," his mother said one night during dinner at the family home. "Sooner or later, you'll realize that she's not the woman you think she is." Ariana paused, savoring her words. "She'll betray you." "I'm sorry, but it's the truth." Jimmy looked at his mother, his stomach in knots. He didn't want to believe what she was saying, but those words began to plant a seed of doubt in his mind. What if his mother was right? What if Alice, so perfect in his eyes, wasn't as devoted as he thought? The relationship between Jimmy and Alice began to strain. Small disagreements escalated into major arguments. Every time Ariana intervened, Jimmy found himself in the middle of a battle he didn't know how to win. Alice, tired of the constant criticism and Jimmy's growing distance, tried to talk to him, but the words drowned in the sea of distrust that Ariana had created. The marriage, which initially seemed a promise of happiness, became a constant struggle to survive external interference. Alice began to wonder if she had made a mistake by marrying Jimmy, while he, caught between loyalty to his mother and love for his wife, sank deeper into doubt. The spark that once united them now threatened to extinguish. Jimmy used to look at her differently, with admiration in his eyes and a devotion that seemed unbreakable. But now, every time they crossed paths in the house, Alice felt the weight of Jimmy's gaze, filled with doubt. He hadn't said anything directly, but she could sense the tension in every gesture, in every unspoken word. She knew where it all was coming from. Ariana, Jimmy's mother, had managed to do the unthinkable, plant the seed of distrust in their marriage. Despite Alice's constant attempts to maintain peace, her relationship with her mother-in-law only worsened. Ariana was not subtle. Her criticisms were direct, sometimes disguised as advice, but always sharp enough to hurt. If Alice wore a slightly tight dress, Ariana insinuated that she was trying to attract unwanted attention. If she came home late from work, Ariana made comments about how convenient it was for her to have so many excuses to be out of the house. "I don't know why a married woman needs to dress up so much for work," Ariana would say with a forced smile when Jimmy was nearby. "Sometimes I wonder if all that effort is for other eyes, not just yours, Jimmy." Alice tried to ignore her, but it wasn't always easy. Every comment, every insinuation, was like a drop that slowly eroded the rock of her patience. Jimmy, instead of defending her, remained silent most of the time, and when he spoke, it was usually to calm his mother, not to support Alice. "Mom is just worried about me, Alice," he would say when they were alone. "You don't have to take it so seriously." Alice pressed her lips together, biting her tongue to avoid saying what she really thought. Worried about him? That was the last thing Ariana was doing. It was as if she were determined to ruin their marriage. But discussing it with Jimmy only made things worse. He always took the easy way out, avoiding confrontation with his mother and leaving Alice to deal with the fallout. Days passed, and the distance between Alice and Jimmy grew. What had once been a passionate and close relationship now felt like a series of tense encounters. Jimmy came home late, and when he was there, he spent hours in silence, absorbed in his thoughts or distracted by work. The words they exchanged were few and almost always about trivial matters. The lack of communication became a pit that they both fell deeper into. Everything changed the day Alice discovered she was pregnant. It was a Saturday morning when she saw the 2 lines on the pregnancy test. Her heart raced. It had been a surprise, something they hadn't planned, but in that moment, she felt a mix of fear and excitement. She imagined how it would be to tell Jimmy, how it might be the start of something new for them, an opportunity to close the gap that Ariana had opened between them. However, Jimmy's reaction was anything but what she had pictured. Are you pregnant?" Jimmy looked at her, his face flushing, not with joy, but with anger. Alice nodded, her smile fading as she saw the expression in her husband's eyes. "Jimmy, I know we didn't plan this, but I thought." "What did you think?" he interrupted, his voice rising. "We weren't ready for this, Alice. I can't believe this is happening now." Alice stepped back, feeling the coldness of Jimmy's words like a slap. In her mind, she had envisioned a moment of joy, but instead, she was living a nightmare. Jimmy began to pace back and forth in the room, his frustration evident. He was not ready